This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, are you at risk or can you manage? And if you think you lived through some bad winters, I think we can top it. And how do you say, pass the popcorn in ancient Mayan? All that and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Hi, and welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Well, January is sliding into February, and you know what that means. It means I have to start trying to figure out what my wife has been hinting at that she wants me to buy for her for Valentine's Day. But more importantly, except for possibly everybody but my wife, February is also a time to start thinking about the next growing season, or at least how you're going to manage your risk for the next growing season. I spent some time talking to Don Yoder of the Farm Bureau about the importance of using crop insurance as a risk management tool.
Typically, Fred, I approach crop insurance. There's several ways you can approach crop insurance. The main way that I like to help farmers think about it is finding the right policy and coverage level they need to help them do a better job of marketing their grain. I think their number one job is for profitability is marketing their grain as best as they can, and I think crop insurance done the right way can help them do that. I don't think they should approach crop insurance trying to figure out just how big a claim they can get. That's part of it. That's part of the protection it offers, but I think they can leverage that protection into doing a much better job marketing their grain if the market gives them an opportunity.
So when should farmers start really planning their crop insurance strategy?
Right around the corner, typically about January, late second half of January I think is a good time to start, especially this year when we have two significant changes or new options for farmers to consider with crop insurance. So it'll take a little bit more time to analyze these new options and make sure they have the right choice for their operation.
So what are these options?
Well, the first change came about back in September. It was authorized in September for 2012 use. It's called the Trend Adjusted APH option. As you know, farmers have an actual production history, or an APH, which is their yield history on their farms, and that's what their crop insurance guarantees are based off of. Problem we've had over the years is an APH typically lags what a farmer expects to produce this year, especially in corn. Our yield trends continue to increase nicely over the years. So when you look at what a farmer's history is compared to what he expects to produce this year, there's a gap, there's a lag.
So, I mean, generally, you're based on 2 or 3 years ago and it keeps going up, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if a farmer has for example, this last year with the drought, the farmer could have still increased production, but it would have been less than what he expected.
Here's an example. Here in Champaign County, where we're at today, it could be quite common that a farmer has, let's say, a 175 APH actual production history, because it can go back as far as 10 actual years.
Okay.
And anywhere from 4 to 10. But when you look at rotations, 1 year corn, 1 year soybeans, those 10 years may be 20 years of calendar years to get 10 years of production years.
Okay.
So some of these yields that are captured in the APH may be quite old. So it could be quite common for a farmer here in APH, or in Champaign County, to, let's say, have a 175 APH, but expect to produce 200 bushels this year. The 175 APH in this example is what his coverage or his protection is based on. So he's not there's a gap, there's a deductible there, let's say. Well, this new option that's been approved back in September, it adjusts an individual farmer's APH based on his county's trend.
Okay.
So it lets him capture this trend we're talking about, not on his farm, but in his county. Okay. So it won't get him completely from 175 to 200 in my example, but it may get him from 175 to 186, 190. It will cut that gap significantly.
So it's much closer to what they can expect to produce.
That's exactly right. Each county will have their own separate trend, and those have already been published by the RMA, Risk Management Agency. So this winter, farmers will need to check out this new option, in my opinion, see what this trend in their county offers them and how much it would improve their APH, and thus how much it would improve their revenue guarantee.
Okay, what was the other change?
Then the other change just came about a couple weeks ago. The RMA announced a new rating methodology in which they're going to rate our crop insurance premiums with this new method, and that's expected to cut premiums in Illinois about 12% on average for corn and soybeans both. So when you look at those two options combined, well, this new one isn't an option. The first one I explained, the trend adjusted APH, that's an option. Farmers can choose it or not choose it.
Right.
But this new drop in premiums will be statewide, an average about 12% reduction in premiums for corn and soybeans.
Why there's such a large reduction?
Actually, it is a nice reduction, no doubt about it, but it's not what we were thinking we were getting or not what we asked for. The way this goes, the way this is transpired, and it's taken a long time, close to 10 years that we've been, us and other ag organizations have been working on this, Fred. When you look at crop insurance as a federal mandate, the law states that it should have a 1-to-1 ratio. When they look at the premiums they take in and the claims they pay out, over time, across all crops, across all states, that's supposed to average 1-to-1.
Okay.
Well, in Illinois, for corn example, we're closer to a 0.6 historically.
Okay.
We're not getting our money back, which tells us, one, obviously we're in a good production area.
Right.
Good, for the most part, good weather, good production cycles, good soils. That's why we don't have huge claims, enough so to get our premiums back not, we don't want them back every year, but over time,
right,
I should say. So this is an effort to get our premiums closer in line to what they need to be to get our loss ratio closer to 1-to-1, and this won't do it. If we're closer to 0.5, 0.6 over time, this reduction in premium may get us up to 0.7 over time. We were hoping to get up to 0.8. I don't think this reduction will do it. But I'll also be honest, in this age of deficit reduction, it's the #1 goal in Washington. It's very nice that we got any reduction in premium at all.
Right. So when a farmer is considering crop insurance, does it matter where they look for crop insurance?
It does not. All the policies are the same regardless of who you talk to, which agent, which company. All the premiums are the same regardless of which company. So it comes down to service. Which agent will help you or which specialist will help you get the proper policy and coverage and help you understand these new options we're talking about. And then which one has the service you like when a claim occurs.
How important is crop insurance in the whole farm plan, whole business plan? Over
the years, and I'd say over the last 10 years, 10 to 12 years, crop insurance has turned itself into our #1 risk management tool. As an example, in Illinois, about 80% of our corn ground is insured every year, the last several years, and that's been creeping up. 5 years ago, it's probably closer to 70%. Now we're at 80%. Soybeans are 75% of our soybean acres are insured every year. So Illinois farmers not only have continued to increase the number of acres they use crop insurance on, our coverage levels continue to go up. In other words, they're investing more in better coverage. Doesn't mean they're going to get a claim every year, but it means they're better protected if adversity does hit. And even if adversity doesn't hit, that better protection still allows them more coverage to do sound marketing. And for example, like in last year, we had significantly high prices. If a farmer had adequate protection, he could then step out safer to do some pre-harvest marketing on some more significant amounts of his bushels, locking in great prices if he was so inclined.
Hi, and I'm Monica Becker. What do you think? The Illinois Department of Agriculture is looking to Illinois corn producers to share their views and opinions on a proposed corn checkoff referendum at a public hearing on February 21st in Springfield. The Illinois Corn Marketing Board is proposing to enhance marketing and promotion of corn by increasing the checkoff amount by 1/4 cent per bushel. This would increase the current 3/8 cent voluntary checkoff rate to 5/8 cent per bushel. Growers would still have a right to refund. If you're interested in finding out more, copies of the proposed amendment to the marketing program are available through the Agricultural Department's Marketing and Promotion Office. Now, there are other reasons why February is an important month for farmers. It may be the most important risk management month in the calendar year. Todd Gleason has more.
The new year brings with it gray skies and snow and sometimes rain, and even a renewal process as the land lies dormant. It can be a time of contemplation and reflection, and for farmers, a time to plan for the coming growing season. And the second month of the year, February, may very well be the most important new crop risk management month.
During the month of February, the projected prices for crop insurance are set. Last year we had a 601 corn price, or corn projected price. That set our guarantees so that we didn't have very much chance of a loss. And so what that projected price comes in at is very critical. This year we're looking at something closer to 5 or 5.30 for the corn for the corn projected price. But a 30-cent difference can make a difference of $30,000 to $40,000 in the lowest revenue that we can see from a farm.
Those numbers come from the aggregated Illinois Farm Business Farm Management records. The average farm size is 1,200 acres. Here's an example of how farm income moves with price and crop insurance.
A 5.30 corn price and a 10.30 soybean price results in the lowest revenue on that 1,200 acre farm, right around minus $30,000. We lower it 30 cents to $5 and $10 for soybeans. That lowest revenue goes from minus $30,000 to minus $60,000, or it drops about $30,000.
The month of February, then, is an extraordinary time on the farm. It is when the real work of risk management can be done.
And that will influence both their coverage levels. It might impact what they do on the marketing side. And it's unfortunate that we set all our cash rents in the fall, or many of our cash rents in the fall, because it would be nice to have that cash rent decision synced up with our crop insurance projected price decisions.
Crop insurance prices will be set in the month of February. Farmers will make decisions in the month of March. They can use the University of Illinois FarmDoc website and the calculators there to aid in that process. The address is www.farmdoc.illinois.edu. For University of Illinois Extension, I'm Todd Gleason.
A Creighton University study suggests that the farmland bubble may just be about to burst. The report shows that we have had 24 months of rising farmland prices. But as Ernie Goss, a Creighton economist, said, the air will come out of the farmland bubble when agriculture commodity prices soften in the months ahead. The pushed up farmland prices are at rates that are unsustainable in the long run. That may or may not be true, but as Gene Autry once said, the only thing they're not making more of is land. So you decide. USDA has recently released the new version of its Plant Hardiness Zone Map, updating a useful tool for gardeners and researchers for the first time since 1990. Plant hardiness zone designations represent the average annual extreme minimum temperatures at a given location during a particular time period. They do not reflect the coldest it has ever been or ever will be at a specific location, but simply the average lowest winter temperature for the location over a specified time. Low temperature during the winter is a crucial factor in the survival of plants at specific locations. And what does the new map show? Each of the zones in the state are generally 1 5-degree Fahrenheit half zone warmer than the previous map, which means longer growing seasons for most of us, and it's getting warmer. And at least for this winter, we might have La Nina to thank for the relatively snow-free drives, but we might not want her around for too long. The Climate Prediction Center has indicated that the latest observations and model forecasts suggest that La Nina will be weak to moderate in strength this winter and growing weaker until it likely dissipates sometime between March and May. This means a likelihood of above average precipitation across the northern tier of states and in the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. So the center is predicting a very wet spring. Good luck getting into those fields. And that's it for this week. I'm Monica Becker.
I'm with my good friend Dave Shiley, the extension educator for the District 19, otherwise we call it the Four Rivers area. And Dave, you're here to tell me about a webinar?
Yes.
What is a webinar?
Well, a webinar is just basically a distance learning opportunity. We bring people into a classroom, then we connect a specialist from various parts of Illinois to that classroom through the internet.
So you can get experts from all over the country all over the state, excuse me, to come talk about a particular topic?
Sure, and sometimes we do it, connect somebody from another state as well. And then participants not only get to hear that person basically live, but in another room, essentially, but they get to ask questions.
Okay, so it's really very interactive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
So the webinar you came to talk about today is the Small Farm and Local Foods webinar. What is that webinar about?
Well, it's actually going to be a series of webinars that begins on the 29th of January and will go all the way through the end of March. So a weekly opportunity to learn something about small farms and local food systems.
So there's a number of topics, so if you're interested in a particular topic, you show up for that particular webinar on that day, right?
That's correct, and you don't have to attend all of them, you know, just the ones that are of interest to you.
Okay, so what are some of the things these webinars are going to be talking about?
Well, one of them that you might be interested in is something called GAPS.
Okay.
And that's just an abbreviation for Good Agricultural Practices.
Okay.
And it's really important in that a produce grower can learn how to handle that produce to keep it food safe.
Oh, okay.
And there's a certification program now that if you're growing produce and going to sell to one of the large food providers like Neiman Foods or somebody like that, you know, that then they need to be certified.
Okay, so if we're trying to grow locally and consume locally, we want to sell locally, and so therefore you need certification for that?
Yes, you need it for just to protect yourself. It's kind of like a risk management plan.
Okay, what sort of things are involved in that certification? I mean, what are we looking for?
You know, we're looking to prevent things like E. coli transfer from maybe a livestock area into the garden area and into your packing house. So kind of a long list of things that from harvest to getting it to the store basically or to the farmer's market. So.
Okay, so what's another, that's very important, but what's another topic that you're going to be covering another week in a webinar?
Yeah, and another one is going to be on raising goats and sheep.
Goats, okay, I don't think of goats and sheep in central Illinois.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about if you're interested in incorporating that into small acreage. It really fits maybe a little bit better in terms of you don't need as many acres to grow that small of a livestock compared to cattle.
Okay, yeah, they seem to be a little bit more manageable.
Sure.
So you'd be learning about livestock management practices with that?
Right, learning about all the health issues that may be with those two species. And we're going to have another seminar on pasture management. So probably if you're interested in raising goats and sheep, you'll be interested in
pasture management.
Pasture management. So,
okay.
Right.
Another topic you told me about was woodland management. Right. What is that going to have? What does that mean?
You know, we're going to talk about woodland management from a standpoint of having it be profitable. A lot of our acreage and wooded acreage in Illinois is owned privately, about 89% in fact.
I would say that's privately owned woodland.
Yeah, and most of those acres don't have a management plan. So we're going to talk about developing a management plan based on your goals. You may not be interested in raising timber, but if you're interested in raising livestock or wildlife, deer, turkey, then we're going to talk about crop tree management as a way to increase the acorn production.
Well, in corn bean land here, we're used to those sorts of soil management practice. Is there a session about how some of these smaller farms can manage their land a little bit better?
Yeah, there's one on soil fertility.
Okay.
And we talk about soil fertility with corn and soybeans, but it's equally important when you're growing vegetables, as an example. So we're going to have a session that you'll learn the basics of soil fertility, how to scout your crop, look for nutrient deficiencies, and how to correct those, how to read a soil test, which is a really important step in growing a crop.
So some very interesting topics. Who would be likely to want to attend some of these things?
Right. Even if you're not growing a product to sell, you own some small acreage, I think you'd benefit from attending.
So anybody who wants to think about using their acreage differently.
Right.
Okay.
Right, or wisely.
Okay, so how do we register?
Yeah, you can just go online to our University of Illinois Extension website. Again, under registrations, you can click there and You'll see the list of all the different programs. We offer it at 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, and then again on Thursday in the afternoon. So whatever would fit your schedule, pick and choose. It's free of charge.
It's free? Okay, and this is the case where the advice is actually worth more than the cost to get it, I imagine.
That's correct.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave Shiley. It's the Small Farm and Local Foods webinar. It's going to be held in the Arthur Extension Office, and if you're interested, register online. So thank you, David.
You're welcome.
It's been a very mild winter so far, knock on wood, but I think we can all remember some pretty bad ones. But the mother of all winters for Illinois took place long before any of us were born. Here to tell us is Caitlin Napoleoni for Under the Four Rivers Sky.
Picture yourself writing in your diary of a winter's day by candlelight. While outside, the northwest winds howl, blowing snow against the door, a small barrier between you and the elements. The fire you made in the fireplace begins to lose the battle to heat your log home. You shiver with fear that the ink might freeze under the harshest conditions you have ever experienced in your lifetime. You attempt to divert your wavering thoughts of the day when a burst of warmth breaks the icy grip to no avail. Scenes like this were common among the inhabitants of central Illinois during the winter seasons of the 19th century. Throughout the recent decades, we have experienced the rage of winter's wrath. To some of us, winter's fury has been a major inconvenience, stumping transportation or an occasional power outage that disables the use of the internet. Whatever the inconvenience, those before us had to struggle during the icy nights of central Illinois that we sometimes forget how difficult it was. In this segment of Under the Four Rivers Skies, we explored the winter of the deep snow of 1830-31.
It started on December 20th with a cold rain, and by Christmas Eve the sleet and snow had begun. Along with the piling snow, there were maddening winds that made it impossible for a man to walk against for any reasonable amount of time. An early settler by the name of Dr. Julian M. Sturtevant, who was in Jacksonville, Illinois to help start Illinois College, wrote one of the best testimonials to this incredible winter storm.
For weeks, certainly for not less than 2 weeks, the mercury in the thermometer tube was not, on any one morning, higher than 12 degrees below zero. The wind was a steady, fierce gale from the northwest, day and night. The air was filled with flying snow, which blinded the eyes and almost stopped the breath of anyone who attempted to face it.
Transportation was at a dead stop during this event. A man and his wife, along with their 6 children that attempted to make their way through the storm by wagon, were found dead, huddled together next to their wagon that was half covered in snow. And they weren't the only people to not make it. When a person did dare an attempt to venture out into the 6-foot snowdrifts and strong northwesterly winds, tracks made by a team and wagon would be covered up before they even turned around to return. But it was absolutely necessary to leave the home in order to get food or fuel. Cutting down trees to burn for heat was almost impossible because of the wind and snow, but was made even more difficult because of the frozen moisture in all of the trees. But it had to be done in order to survive. Many people who were just moving into the area from the south had not yet finished building their homes before the winter hit. The cold, snow, and wind caught them by surprise. From one testimony, there were entire villages of 50 living in just 2 houses that had chimneys and 4 walls in the entire community. Sometimes a tiny fire was just not enough to keep the citizens of Illinois warm during this event. Clothes had to be piled on along with blankets and as many other layers as possible to survive. Wild animals such as deer, bison, and birds died off in the hundreds due to starvation or being trapped in the cold and killed by other starving predators. John Buckles, who was a resident of central Illinois at the time, said the wild deer became tame with hunger and would even walk up to the door of his cabin to be fed. Hogs, poultry, and other stock also died off in great numbers from the cold and hunger because corn could not be gathered from beneath the piles of snow to feed them.
For Illinois inhabitants, the winter of the deep snow was the benchmark that separated the true pioneers from those who moved into the region after that winter of 1830-31. The next time you find yourself inconvenienced by winter's wrath, think about our ancestors and their struggle to keep warm during harsh, wintry nights.
Finally, and I thought some movie theater popcorn I ate last time was stale. Archaeologists have discovered that people living along the coast of Peru were eating popcorn thousands of years earlier than previously thought. They found corn cobs, husks, and stalks dating from 6,700 to 3,000 years ago. From the fossil evidence, they determined that these ancient peoples ate corn several ways, including flour corn and popcorn. It is thought these ancient Peruvian peoples did not even have clay pots yet. But I say the large movie theater tubs they found were a sure giveaway. Maybe that's where they came up with all that 2012 stuff. Well, that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thank you for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.